Hey everybody, welcome back to the Resilient Purpose Podcast. Doug Pfeiffer here, and we have pivoted and we have changed things. We actually are now a podcast of two people, as I have my co-host.
Hello, I'm Spencer Thorne. Thank you for having me, Doug.
We're really excited. We're really changing things up. We went on a long hiatus and we really focused on our Resilient Purpose Plus platform and doing some things like the youth resilience and wellness bundle, and we're working on some first responder wellness projects, and so we really got through all that, and now we really have the energy to bring the podcast back and talk all things resilience, mental health, and wellness. So Spencer is going to join me every time we have an episode. We're going to just have episodes between me and him, but we're also going to have episodes where we invite guests and talk about things related to these topics. So looking forward to getting started with this, Spencer.
Yes, excited to be here, ready to go.
All right, stay tuned. The Resilient Purpose Podcast with Doug and Spencer. I thought that doing a icebreaker would be helpful since you are new to this podcast, and I wanted, actually, we've been on a break for a while.
Yeah.
And so I think to re-engage people in the audience, I think it would be cool to have them get to know us.
Sure.
And learn a little bit about us. What do you think? You ready to kind of dive right in there?
I'm ready, Doug.
All right, so got 5 questions. Start off with an easy one because you are really into music, and I think people are going to learn that about you. But what's your favorite musical instrument?
Oh, my favorite musical instrument has to be percussion, any kind of drums. I love anything drums, and I make things drums.
You make things drums? Or
yes.
You're going to have to tell me, what?
Your thighs could be drums.
Oh, so you turn anything into
Yes, I have that potentially character flaw in me.
So everybody's like, stop tapping, man. Stop tapping.
I was that kind of kid, growing up.
Right.
So I've learned to harness it for good.
Yes.
How about you?
Drums, totally drums.
You're drummers too?
I've always been a drum. Like anytime music comes on, I'm horrible at it, but I'm trying to mimic the drum pattern and stuff like that. Like I think I am very impressed by drummers because they can do one beat on one hand and a foot and another, and I'm just mesmerized by the ability for them to do that. So I respect that. That's impressive. So it is also a favorite instrument in admiration, but also stress reliever. Banging the crap out of drums would be very fun.
I can confirm. It's great.
You're now a co-host of this podcast.
Okay.
So if you could have anybody in this world to be our first guest, who would it be?
And I would go for a professional athlete of some sort. Tom Brady or someone like that.
Tom Brady?
Yes.
Come on and talk? Well, Tom Brady's out there. I'm sure he's watching this, and then he can call us out.
I'd like to pick his brain on the mental health aspect of playing football and at a high level.
At a high level.
I think that would be an interesting conversation.
So there was this. I listened to ESPN Daily podcast. So and the episode today was about the Roger Federer model.
Ooh.
And so he is the antithesis to Tiger Woods. So Tiger Woods and Roger Federer are the best in their field.
Yeah.
And Tiger Woods was highly specializing in golf from as early as 2, and Roger Federer did everything. He played rugby, he played squash, he did all the basketball, everything. He never really specialized until he got really older, and so everybody kind of thinks mind-wise that to be a world-class athlete you actually have to do what Tiger Woods does, but actually the research doesn't really match that although that's true, you do have people like Tiger Woods, the majority are like Roger Federer playing.
And I can see, especially when you're young, you want to stretch, play experience as much as you can, because that'll help tune your mindset when you choose, a sport to really focus in on. You can bring all those perspectives in. Yeah. That's very interesting.
Yeah. So
Roger Federer's up there too for me.
Roger Federer would be a good guest.
That would be a great guest.
I would want to. There's been a lot of professional hockey players talking about mental health or supporting mental health, so I would love to get a professional hockey player that is dealing with mental health issues or wants to talk about mental health issues.
I could see that being going, especially because hockey's a rough and tumbling. Like there's a lot of collisions going on there. So
it is a special topic for me. I love kind of sports, and so I love mental health, and so talking about both of those are that. I also would kind of get into the mind of musicians and their mental health.
yeah.
So I think any creative person kind of is very in touch with their negative emotion. So like if I could bring the person back, Chester Benningfield from Lincoln Park.
Lincoln Park, yeah.
Would be.
Oh man, the stories he has, I'm sure.
Yeah,
that would be something.
So that would be so.
Okay.
Third question: can hang out with any cartoon character out there. Who would be the cartoon character?
Any cartoon character?
Yes.
Timmy Turner, Fairly Odd Parents.
Okay.
I love the fairies granting all the wishes for it. That would be a superb day.
So you'd want wishes granted,
or at least hang with Timmy, who has the wishes.
Oh, okay. So he would grant that. I've never watched that, and then, so I wouldn't know much about that.
Okay. What about you?
Batman Beyond, the Batman Beyond character, Terry, I think is his name. It's been a while since I've watched it, but that has been my favorite Batman of all time, and so fighting crime with Batman Beyond would be cool.
That's honorable.
While going to high school and
and dealing with all the classic problems.
Right. If you could eat, and you could only eat this meal for the rest of your life, like it's the only meal option you would have.
Okay.
And you have to have it for every meal for the rest of your life. Which meal would that be?
Oh, I've already considered this a sub, a turkey cheese sub.
A turkey cheese sub?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it provides everything you need, and you can do it.
So there's a health. Okay. I am pizza all the way. Pepperoni pizza, but it can't just be like it has to be pizza from like our local pizza, like Station Pizza or Over the Moon Pizza here in Marietta or something.
Well, are you like a thin cruster? Okay.
Yeah, I think the thick crust is too much, but I like the thin crust, and I like a greasy, like dripping off the pizza.
Yeah.
Like I could have it as a drink.
Yes.
Pizza with the pepperoni. So.
Okay.
All right, and last but not least, what is your favorite item that you've bought this year? And we could say last 12 months, since it's
I got
more
one.
time than 6 months.
I bought a new drum.
Okay.
And so that easily takes the cake. It's a hand pan drum, and it's it's a hand drum that has melody to it. So it's both got the rhythm and the melody aspect to it, and it's a gem for me.
It's a gem.
Yes.
All right.
What about you?
Lightsaber.
A lightsaber?
Built a lightsaber at Disney. So.
Really?
Yes. So it makes the sound. It's a green lightsaber.
When you built it.
You built it. You go to Disney and you
go to like a workshop and like
and they take you through it and it's like they don't break character. It's like
you're in it.
Like you're in it, like building the Jedi Kyber crystals and.
In what color?
Green.
Green.
Yeah, I was actually wanting the yellow one because Lily's favorite color is yellow, and I thought it would be cool, but they didn't have yellow. So they had So some people, if they wanted to be the Sith, could get red.
You go red, yeah.
And then there were the other option I would have probably gone with was purple. But they didn't have purple, so they had blue, green, and I think red. I think was the.
Green's a solid choice.
Green. I had to go green.
Seems like a balanced choice.
A balanced choice. So that is definitely. All right. So we'll probably have to come back for more get to know you questions, and maybe that's something that we can kind of engage the audience. People can start putting in their
answers
one
to these
food
questions
that they have to eat for the rest of their life.
Drop a comment.
Yes,
absolutely.
So. One of the things that we have never done, and we're going to start doing, is a regulation activity. So we're going to just do an activity, and this is something that people watching can do with us, but regulation is important. We're talking about mental health, we're talking about resilience, so the best way to get to resilience and mental health is to learn how to effectively calm your mind and body.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
Do you know a whole lot of regulation activities?
I do have a tool belt that's growing of my regulation activities.
You focus and put it down.
Yeah.
So I thought today I would do one that I think would be easy for people that are watching to learn, and would just be a kind of a simple one, and it's called the finger trace breathing.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is while we are inhaling and exhaling, we are going to trace our hand up and trace our hand down, each finger, going all the way to the end, and that'll be kind of how long we breathe, right?
Okay.
So on the inhale, and we're going to inhale through our nose. We want to inhale and exhale through our nose. That's the cleanest, most effective way to breathe, to get breathing from our belly so that our belly moves. It's the best.
And the nose has good filters, right?
Nose has good filters. It's not very healthy to breathe through your mouth. So it just is going to be more effective in terms of how we regulate our mind and body. So we are going to inhale through our nose, and what we want is to close our mouth. Try to have your tongue at the roof of your mouth. It's a little secret about breathing, that if you have the tongue at the roof of your mouth, it opens up kind of an airway to get to your belly to really fill up your lungs and everything like that.
I'm like messing with it, right? I can feel the difference.
So so if you actually try to breathe with your tongue at the bottom,
it's like not efficient.
it's not efficient.
Like
It kind of feels stuck. But if you have it, and so the way easy you could do is you could swallow, and your tongue naturally goes to the tip of your mouth, like the roof of your mouth, and so you breathe in and out. So there's actually like marathon runners that run and breathe like that. They run and breathe in with the tongue at the roof of their mouth, and that helps them stay steady.
I could see that. Yeah. Okay.
And then we'll breathe out. And so one of the things I like about this one is you can control the pace of your breathing by how fast you go up your fingers and down your fingers.
Yeah.
So if you feel like you're breathing really fast and rapid, you can go really slow and breathe
Right,
in,
and you kind of use the arc to go up
and then back down. And then so you keep your nose in and out, and typically there's many different ways. You can go even, try to do the even amount of time in, or up and then down, or you can go shorter on the way up with the inhale, and then farther on the way, like longer on the way down or exhaling, and see kind of what works for you. So
Do you want to exhale through your mouth?
through your nose.
Through your nose. So
You
everything
can, but
through the nose.
nose is the best.
Okay.
So you want to try it?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, I'm ready.
We're kind of all right.
Mhm.
So let's start. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and out. In and out. In and out. In and out. So what was that like?
That was nice. That was like a little adventure. It feels like you're like just
Yeah.
going through the ups and downs. Like that was nice.
Yes. So it is a good way. The other thing I like about it is I could feel like my hand, like the touch, the tactile sensations on your fingers. So that kind of drew my attention to my hand. And so when you're like stressed and overwhelmed and your mind's racing, you're thinking about all this kind of rough stuff.
Yeah.
Your brain kind of redirects to kind of a sensory,
Like the immediate
point,
here.
the immediate, the present. So it's also grounding as
Yeah.
well. Keeps us
I definitely felt that.
to the present moment. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So
And it's free.
and it's free. You don't have to. You
no
don't have
props
to buy.
needed.
Right. Right.
That's nice.
And like, so if you're out in like a restaurant and you're anxious and you're really stressed, but you don't want to be like this out. You put the hand
You go-
underneath your the table, and you're just and you have your eyes open or closed. It doesn't really matter. I typically close my eyes just to kind of focus and everything like that. But you can do it. No one really notices that you're doing this breathing. Although if someone sees somebody doing some deep breaths, that should be something that we should appreciate and be positive about.
And I like this because I talk about with working with kids, like stealthy ways we can regulate, or get a quiet fidget, something that doesn't disrupt the classroom.
Right.
or doesn't make a big scene, or if you don't want to draw attention to yourself.
Right.
This is a nice one.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So I encourage you to do it. I encourage you to do it often, and then also kind of let us know how that was. So put something in the comments letting us know whether you felt better, whether it stayed the same, whether it made you feel worse. Sometimes that might happen. You just got to kind of see what works for you, and so you felt better.
I felt myself like sinking into my chair, like just that grounding feeling. Yeah, really effective.
Every episode when me and Spencer are together, we wanted to talk about a particular topic related to mental health or wellness or whatever. So our topic, and people probably heard me talk about this before.
It's important.
It's important, and it's not something that I'm not the originator of this viewpoint or look at mental health, but I find it really interesting. I was watching an Apple Plus show called The Me You Can't See is the name of it. And it's really cool. It's like 6 episodes, and somewhere in there, I can't remember which episode it was, Prince Harry's talking about mental health as an injury.
Okay.
And looking at mental health. And so one of the things that we deal with at A Life of Purpose and our community mental health is that there is still lots of stigma around people getting help, going and working on their mental health. I think I see a lot of people kind of talk about how they're dealing with all this stuff and they really find mental health important, but then they often also don't really do anything about it. They don't work on it, or it just seems like there's barriers around working on your mental health or making it a priority. And so one of the reasons why I think, and it's not the only reason why there's a stigma, but one of the reasons why is mental health is looked at as an illness, as a disorder, which basically says there's something wrong with you.
Internally,
you're broken. You're messed up.
Yeah, you're labeled.
Right. So it's almost kind of like if I go get mental health treatment, I am admitting to myself into the world that I'm messed up.
I think that's a lot of people hold that view.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people.
And I don't want to come to terms with that reality or think about it. I don't want to. It's not an easy way to look at yourself.
It's not, and I think especially considering the effect of internalizing, if you start to take them, your issues as in mental health, you start to become, oh, I'm just a depressed person. Oh, I'm just an anxious person.
That becomes your identity. That's who you are.
Yes, you start to form your identity around that, and it's like that can't possibly be helping.
Right, and I remember when I would work with kids in residential or foster care, they would often say, "I can't help it. I have ADHD. I can't help it. I have bipolar."
And
they just
write it off.
They write it off that I have no, and so there's not a whole lot of hope that comes from getting a bipolar disorder diagnosis or a depression disorder diagnosis. It doesn't seem like it probably feels like. And typically when you go to counseling centers, this diagnosis, they don't just kind of appear and then we take them off. They tend to kind of stay with people.
Right.
Especially people, if they go from place to place, they kind of stay with you and you never seem to kind of escape that label or.
Yes. And I will say, from my experience working in the schools, I've noticed an increase of teachers and other professionals starting to come around to the idea of mental health, and the importance of it and the importance of addressing that before we can get to the academics.
Right.
I've noticed, and it's probably partially from the pandemic, and now we're kind of back to our normal years, normal school days, and now I think teachers are starting to see some of that need, and some of them are coming around to that idea.
Well, and one of the reasons why I like it as mental health as an injury is really mental health is our difficulty in coping with what's happened to us, like experiences so if you take the pandemic, people have suffered during the pandemic. They have been overwhelmed by the world shutting down, the impact of inflation recently, the impact of missing out on work or losing your job or losing close loved ones,
Yeah.
you know, all of these things. These are events that are happening to people in their life that take, you know, you could be going about your life and everything's going well, and you don't even think about the need to kind of work on your mental health because everything's going great, and all of a sudden all these things keep happening, and you're depressed, you're anxious, you're panicking, you're having these panic attacks, you're not outside anymore, you're not wanting to hang out with friends anymore, or you're just kind of disconnecting from the world. Now, in the academic side, kids are having trouble learning, they're socializing, they're getting in trouble with,
well, they have 2 years less of experience just going through the school routine, you know, and so they're just, you know, kind of at a deficit, you know, at a mechanical deficit, you know, get the social mechanics, the routines of school.
Yeah.
And so, and I think it's important about, you know, if we view mental health as an injury, that seems more hopeful.
Yeah.
Like there's a solution, you know, out there that we can, you know, help, you know, to recover.
There's a big movement about like mental health is health, and you know, physical health and mental health kind of impact each other. We know that, like, you know, stress gets manifested in our physical self. So like when we are, you know, increased heart rate from panic, or clammy skin, or hot body temperature, or a lot of muscular tension, digestive issues, heart problems, all come from, you know, stress. And there's so much, like, where people go to the doctor and they have all these physical ailments and they can't find a physical cause, a medical reason, and then we realize it's related to stress and trauma and all those things. So, you know, when I'm not feeling good, when I'm having a hard day or a hard week or a hard month or even a hard year, I know that I'm having a hard because I feel it in my body.
Yes. Yeah.
You know? And so it's my physical self trying to deal with the stress, and so our physical health is impacted by stress, and then of course our mental health is the way we think, the way we feel is all impacted by that. You know, we don't come out of the womb depressed.
Right.
We have certain sensitivities and regulation kind of abilities and everything like that, but in reality it's these experiences that shape our mood states, our behavior, the way we function, you know, and all those impact it. So it's these life experiences that impact our ability to cope in a healthy way and function. And so if it's experiences that pretty much drive our mental health, it's the same concept of getting injured on the playing field, like where I tear my ACL, comes from a physical athletic experience that injures my knee just as much as abuse or domestic violence or losing a loved one impacts my, you know, creates a mental health issue.
For sure. And, you know, we wouldn't go around and label you, you know, oh, you're an ACL tearer. You're one of those guys. You know? Right. There's not really like that. You know, I think another interesting thing about like the physical part and how it relates to your mental health. A lot of the things I see is people fall into the trap of, you know, if something's, you know, upsetting them, you know, an external stress, they actually forego like eating breakfast, you know, they'll actually fall into the trap of digging themselves deeper down of not taking care of their physical self to, you know, bring it back to the mental side of things.
No,
and so like,
and I can relate to that because I mean, even this morning I was thinking about it because this week has been a pretty stressful week for me, and it's been pretty rough, and I've been really kind of like overwhelmed at times, and I exercise religiously pretty much every day if I can, and there's everything in my body was telling me don't go downstairs and exercise.
Yes.
And I'm having to like kick in and go, no, it's good for me. Like I need this so that I feel better.
That rational part of the brain.
Yeah, like luckily I have the kind of the executive functions to be like, shut up, like go kind of work out, go through it, it'll help.
Don't dig yourself deeper.
Don't pile on.
Yeah. Yes.
The suffering, the athlete who tears his ACL and then continues to play.
You're right. Right.
Instead of going and getting help and going and dealing with the problem, you keep trying to endure and suffer through it, and you just keep piling on and at it, and you do things.
That's a great example.
You know, it sucked because that happened to my daughter. She hurt her knee a little bit, and she plays volleyball. And there was this anxiety of like, I don't want to take time off. Like, what's that going to mean for my team?
She wants the performance anxiety,
right?
Yeah.
And like, I'm trying to find playing time and do all these things, and so it was an emotional kind of impact. I know that's one of the topics that we want to cover, but I think injury is basically saying that something is not working the way we want it, and so our ability to cope is not working the way we want it. There's an injury. Something is impacted by an experience or an event, and we have to help our brain and body work through it.
Yeah.
And
you wouldn't expect your daughter with the bum knee to go out there and perform just like normal, to play up to her part, right? We don't expect that from injured people, and and similarly, we shouldn't expect
people that are suffering
from things to just perform their day-to-day activities just as normal,
Right.
So I think that's a part of that stigma too, is like managing the expectations of people that are dealing.
Well, and I think a lot of people are calling off work because they have to take mental health days and everything like that. That's a good thing if they're taking it off to do something rehabilitative, like I'm doing something to take care of myself, not to just I'm calling off because I don't feel like working because I'm depressed, but I'm gonna take this day so that I can whether it's go exercise or go on a trip with a friend to bond,
to
reconnect, and re-engage in life, so that when you are taking those days that you're making it, it's kind of purposeful, and it's to take care, it's to rehabilitate, like you would go to physical therapy.
Yes.
To deal with an injury.
Yes. What would you say to a kid he's suffering from some mental health issues, and he's recognized that there's issues, but he doesn't see how counseling or therapy can help him, and he's tried it once, and he didn't see the results, and so he now he's reluctant to return. What would you say to a young teen?
That is a really good question, and there's probably a couple different directions to go. One would be, I would want to know more about why the first time that he tried it didn't go well. So it could have been like, okay, that was a year ago, and I was in a much different place, and they forced me to go to therapy. I didn't really want to go to therapy in the first place, and so then I went, and then it went all wrong, and miserable, and everything like that. So if the kid's more aware a year later and saying, hey, I want to create change, his attitude and mindset of I want to get better probably is going to lead to a better result.
I think what it was in this particular example is they weren't jiving. They weren't jiving with the counselor, and so
that's normal.
Part of that's kind of, you gotta shop around a little bit, right, and to see what works.
It's this. So if we're talking about injury, it could be the same. Like if I go to physical therapy and to deal with a physical injury, and I just don't like the facility, I don't like the equipment that they have, I don't like the routine that they're doing, it doesn't seem to be working, this person doesn't seem to really respect my feedback about what's happening with my knee, or whatever, then I would probably instead of going to this physical therapy place, I'm going to go somewhere else because that didn't work. It's not that therapy doesn't work. It's that something wasn't right in terms of the relationship,
the interpersonal
stuff,
and especially mental health is very interpersonal counseling.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important that you
absolutely,
you find the right don't give up on counseling if your first attempt maybe wasn't with the right fit.
Absolutely, and there could also be some self-awareness of like, what was your state going in? Were you really excited about being counseling? Were you really nervous, really stressed, overwhelmed? Like, how open were you? Like, how did you give it time? Because I would say that physical therapy, when I rehabbed my knee because I dislocated my kneecap, it wasn't easy. Like it was tough. It was in some ways it was not a good feeling to do the rehab. To exert myself. Do all that, and so
it's a little uncomfortable.
It was uncomfortable. I had I had to keep challenging my knee to get it stronger and better. So, you know, sometimes what I think happens is people go to therapy, and then as soon as they start getting challenged, their brain starts to kind of sound the alarms, and then they go, I don't really like this person. Therapy doesn't work.
Interesting, yeah.
Because they don't trust the process. And the process is that you don't just go to one therapy session and then boom,
magical wand.
Magical wand. You know, even though in solution-focused therapy we ask that question, like, if you had a magical wand, what would be better? It doesn't work that way. The other thing is, you don't have to just go to therapy to work on your mental health. So,
what do you mean by that?
Therapy typically or often is a talk-oriented approach. Now, there are therapists out there that do a lot of body, sensory motor type therapy, EMDR, things like that, which are wonderful and fantastic ways to do therapy, so it's not all just talk therapy. Talk therapy, people might not be, especially kids, might not be, it's just not the right time for them to start talking about it. They're too overwhelmed by what's happening in their body.
Yeah.
And so you have to kind of do more physical, and you know, maybe it's like, okay, start getting better, you're going to get into a physical movement routine. You're going to work with, you know, you at school and just learn how to regulate every day. You do a lot of finger trace breathing every day, many times a day, and just see how you kind of rehab your stress response system.
Yeah.
Right? So just like you go...
It's really just like building up the blocks from the brainstem
to
get to the top, right?
You're regulating the lower systems, because the other thing is that when we're suffering and we're deciding that we're going to therapy, we're so dysregulated from being overwhelmed by our emotional pain and whatever, that it shuts our cortex down. Well, to do therapy, pretty much you have to have your cortex available to do talk therapy.
Right.
To kind of like process in a cognitive way, you know, to talk about your thoughts and feelings and all that, and to self-reflect.
Yeah.
You have to be fairly well regulated for that to be really effective. So if you're really dysregulated from your mental health struggles and stress and stuff, oftentimes I wouldn't even recommend going to therapy in a sense. I would go to therapy to somebody that is more developmentally informed and biologically informed in terms of knowing how to use movement, rhythm, and just focusing on regulation activities and not doing a whole lot of talking.
Because jumping right to it, it's just it's going to be hard to be productive.
I mean, in anybody, it's just like, because, you know, trauma and all the things that create our mental health struggles are located in the lower non-talking part of our brain, stored in our body. Like, there's a great book by Bessel van der Kolk called The Body Keeps Score, so it's all about like how trauma gets stored in our body. So we're talking at a very high level cognitive area, but the body's gonna start screaming at you and saying,
it's like, hey, I remember this.
I don't want to remember it. Stop talking about it. And so it sounds all the alarms, and it creates all this yuck in your body, and so then that's when you gauge in those fight or flight. So the stress response gets activated, and you're like, and so your brain can kind of filter, I don't like that therapist, he's no good, he doesn't know what he's talking about, and everything like that. Whether that's true or not is whatever.
Could be, yeah. Right. Okay.
You know? And so there's other ways to heal. And, you know, I'm a big proponent of movement and, you know, using non-talk ways of, you know, healing. So.
And even like relationships, right? So like even if you're not comfortable, you know, maybe talking with you know, an official therapist, maybe that like psychs you out.
Yeah.
Like, you know, will the janitor like listen?
Right.
Like, you know, just like, you know, will the janitor sit there and let you express yourself? You know, and you could take it for, you know, but maybe that's the starting point.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the start of you opening up and you practicing opening up. You know, and then as you can take it to more, you know, serious level as you know, maybe your needs are. So
I was doing training with some of the local school districts in life-based crisis intervention, and you took that course.
Yeah.
And they sent their secretary because she deals with a lot of the kids.
A lot of the times the secretaries are like the front line. Yeah. They're just there. They just happen to see it and they happen to be there. Yeah.
It makes a whole lot of sense for them to learn how to do crisis intervention.
Absolutely.
And do that. So, but I just think the big thing that I think to kind of summarize, or at least to kind of end on mental health as an injury, is I think like mental health injury kind of it's all about assessing what the injury is and then addressing it and rehabbing it. And sometimes it's okay, my knee's unstable, so I build all the muscles around it. So sometimes even if you're not even able to get at some of the traumas or whatever, you still like focus on building resilience to allow yourself to better tolerate the injuries or whatever, or to help stabilize your body and your mind, because it was destabilized from these traumatic events.
Right.
You stabilize your mind and body through these resilience building activities.
Yeah.
And so I think it gives you hope, it gives you kind of a game plan. I also think when you kind of go and you just look at it from a disorder standpoint, whether it's ADHD or depression, you don't really, just because you have that disorder label, you don't know why.
Yeah, it doesn't always explain why.
Doesn't explain the etiology, that where is this coming
source,
from?
Yeah.
What's driving the depression? What's like the medical model? But in medical fields, you can take X-rays, you can get into the body and figure out what's going on. You can't go into the mind.
You can't X-ray our thoughts.
You can do like, it's very expensive to like do the MRI, fMRI machines and stuff.
Right.
We just don't have the technology or the cheap technology to kind of be able to do that. So
Right.
it's all about, and you really can't see someone's perception about an event or see how they were impacted by the event to know what the injury is. And
It's less concrete than like traditional
it is
medicine.
Right. I know in therapy, I don't want to go into a therapy and say I have a disorder. I have a,
Right.
I can handle saying, yeah, I was injured by this particular life event that, really, and that's okay. I'm gonna work through it and I'm gonna get better,
Right.
and it doesn't mean anything about my character or my identity of who I am.
Right.
So injury protects my identity. Disorder starts to create a new identity for who I am. So who I thought I was, I'm no longer. I'm this depressed, helpless person that can't get any better, and that doesn't work.
That's not very helpful.
And that's not don't get me wrong, that's not the intention of how the mental health field works. I don't think that's what they were,
No.
it all comes from good intentions.
Right.
But, I always kind of say, it's not like, it's how people interpret
It's
things.
the cultural,
And
like,
the cultural, worries about it.
how people view it, and exactly. And I guess to end on a high, like injury, it implies that there's hope. I just think that's important. Like as opposed to just being.
It normalizes things too.
Yeah.
I think physical injuries are more normal. Like everybody can relate to.
Everybody rolls their ankle at some point.
Right. Right.
And a lot of people deal with mental health.
I want people to kind of send in their thoughts about mental health as an injury, what they think about that.
Comment below. Let us know what you think about that.
Yeah, because I think it would be interesting. I'd be curious to see what people's perspective is on that. I'm not saying that my perspective is perfect, but I want to kind of.
I'm always open to see.
This next segment is Doug and Spencer watch TikTok. So I'm sure that this is definitely Spencer's idea. TikTok, whatever, Reel, whatever you call it, but we're going to be watching a TikTok and we're going to respond to it and react to it.
I think I'm having a panic attack. Oh, that's nice. Hey, can you hold this real quick? What? Okay. So what did you say? You want to go get an organic Big Mac? I don't think they make those. No, I said I'm having a panic attack. Oh, got it. Hey, do me a favor, put that ice tray right on your wrist there. Okay, but why? Are you even listening to me? Yes, you were about to have a panic attack and then I stopped it. No, I'm having a... Wait, yeah, it stopped. What just happened? Touching something cold like an ice tray can disrupt our body's panic response. You can either hold it in your hands or touch it to different parts of your body and it should help calm your anxiety. Wow, I never knew that. Yeah. So now about that organic Big Mac, I think we're onto something.
Some might like the organic Big Mac to cook, but what do you think about that one? What's your thoughts on this one?
That's interesting.
This is by Jesse Ketchus.
Yep, Jesse Ketchus on TikTok. He does a lot of good videos like this. I've never thought about using ice or like cold temperatures. Mm-hmm. Is that like a grounding technique?
I think it's giving them a difference. So you kind of think about like when you're having a panic attack, it's a sensory experience too. It's not a cognitive. I mean, there is some cognitive elements to it. You're thinking you're going to die and you're overwhelmed.
But you're also feeling your heart.
It's really about the sensory aspect of you're panicking because of what you're feeling in your body.
Yeah.
So when you create a different sensory experience, which is the cold, it would be the same as taking a cold shower.
Yeah.
Or a hot shower, or so. I mean, I've noticed it. Like, not that my daughter was having a panic attack, but when she's getting dysregulated, she doesn't want to take a shower, so she's like, I don't want to take a shower. My kids don't like to take showers, so she'll get all dysregulated. Most kids don't. And she'll fight all the way to the shower, but kind of the shower kind of resets her.
Yeah.
And when she comes out, she's better and she's fine.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of definitely kind of like a
it's like a disruptor kind of, like you disrupt the cycle you're going down, and it kind of like puts like a roadblock in there.
Right, and I think probably why the ice probably even works with because a panic attack can be very overwhelming. Is cold is quite an intense sensory experience. So
especially if you're radiating heat from a panic attack.
Right, right. Probably why that works. So well. Now, I mean, if you're by the fridge and you're having a panic attack, that works really well.
Yeah.
Most of us are not hanging out by the fridge all day with a panic attack, so you would have to kind of think about what are other sensory inputs you could use.
Going to the water fountain, splashing water.
You could.
Would that kind of do the same thing?
Yeah, and then walking to the water fountain would also be
on the way there
too, would be helpful as well. So anything, you would call that kind of bottom-up regulation. So the lower parts of the brain, which are really regulated by movement and rhythm and sensory input. So like drawing or any of those things can help reduce that anxiety and stress that you're feeling in your body because you are regulating the lower system. It's the lower systems of your brain that are sending all the chemical messages to the body that says raise your heart rate, because your brain's perceiving some threat in the environment, and it's typically not something that's real. It's a perceived threat that creates the panic. Right. No one ever says they're having a panic attack when they're being chased by a tiger. They're really being chased by a tiger. Typically the panic attack is happening in an experience where they don't.
It's like mismatched.
It's mismatched.
Like their environment's actually not threatening to the level of their response.
Right. And they're their brain's overreacting to the sound. The alarms are way bigger than what it needs to be. Like he thinks he's having a panic attack. In our it's our brain's reaction to sensory input. So we're getting that increased heart rate, the chest pounding, like that. And so then often what you'll see is like you start thinking in panic ways. So you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. And that just, that's sending a signal to your brain that you're, So I like, even sensory input, like we do, I'm wearing like an Original Strength t-shirt and they do press and reset. And one of the resets is rolling. And I love rolling on the floor because there's this tactile input to your body, and so you just feel like it's very rewarding to my brain.
Really?
To kind of just regulate my mind and body by rolling on the floor.
Really?
And rocking kind of does the same thing.
Yeah.
But you're doing something in a kind of purposeful way. But if you're really overwhelmed and you have access to something cold, you could do that.
Yeah, that's something to think about, like the temperature.
Yeah.
Like you can use
that's a
different senses. Yeah. Okay.
One of the things is if you're very, especially with kids, like kids often have, like you'll find like if kids have experienced traumas early on in their life, like first few years of life, they might have body temperature regulation problems. So they actually get really hot really easily, and they're not in a hot room, but their temperature they can't regulate because the lower systems are so dysregulated from chaotic upbringing or whatever that they're always cold, they're always hot, they're hot when it's cold, they're cold when it's hot. Tell us what you think. There's so many opportunities for people to comment. So
absolutely.
All right, so do you have a philosophical question? Because this is how we're going to end. Is on the philosophical.
We're going to end with like a little fun philosophical question. So this one is, if you were born with a different name, how do you think that would affect your personality? And if you could choose a different name for yourself, do you have one like in mind?
Oh gosh, that's an interesting one.
Because I had this theory that the name affects your personality, and some names impact more than other names.
Right. My name, which is Doug,
Mm-hmm.
Douglas or whatever, is it's been both a good experience and a really painful experience. So,
Explain.
Rhymes with just about everything in the world. So easy to be made fun of.
Yes.
With the name. So I've always and sorry mom, but I've always hated my name. I've never ever really liked my name.
I've touched on something here.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Because I always got made fun of like with my name. So you ever have those those things in the yard? They're called bag-o-bugs, where you put them in the yard and they collect all like the beetles or whatever.
Yes.
Bag-o-dug. You know, it's just awful. And then not to mention my last name, no one knows how to spell it or even pronounce it. So my name has been like butchered. I don't have a good like name, but I will say in high school, so there's a rapper, Dougie Fresh.
Okay.
And some might think that I was like, I wouldn't like that, but I actually kind of felt like those were some of the like more positive ways people use my name.
Like that was like a positive Doug.
It was a positive Doug reference. So people endearing themselves to me by Fresh Pfeiffer or Dougie Fresh or whatever.
That was probably a good change of pace.
So there was time in high school where that really worked, and now as adulthood, it is what it is. But no one really does that anymore until probably now. But yeah, that's what I end up having to deal with. So.
Yeah, but like if your name is like Zeus or something,
Zeus,
like how would that like impact your how you perceive your
Biff or
I've always thought about that.
Well, interesting, like Doug was not my parents' first choice, but then I had cousins that had the same. Like I think it was going to be a Chris, but then my cousin's name is Chris, and so I would have really been happy with Chris or.
My parents were drawing letters out of hats.
Were they?
They landed on like Farley. They landed on some ones that I'm glad they
didn't go with.
Yeah, I like Spencer. I've come to like.
Yeah.
It's you don't hear it as often.
Yeah. Has it shaped your personality in any way?
I don't know. I feel like growing up when I was like about middle school age, my middle name is Ryan.
Uh-huh.
I kind of wanted that.
Ryan.
I like Ryan. I kind of was like, I wish my first name was Ryan.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool.
Well, a lot of people go by their middle names. So.
Yeah, I didn't know how to do that, but it works out. I like Spencer, so I've come to peace with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like Pez dispenser. That's like the only like pun you can make with Spencer. It's hard to.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Pez dispenser. That's like the only real big pun you can make on that.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
The rest of them you're kind of like reaching too far.
Yes. And then you're kind of like, oh man, that's sad. Like you really don't know how to make a good joke. But
yeah.
I think it probably made me more shy and more. In certain social situations.
And like the stereotypes that come with each name has like their,
Like I don't feel very confident sharing what my name is. Like when they ask you don't feel like, I don't breathe with confidence going, my name is Doug.
Right. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know, I think that's interesting.
So I'm sure it is embedded in my
in your soul.
In my soul, in my aura or whatever. So
let us know what you think. What would your name be if you could change your name?
Yeah, Zeus would be good. I would love to be Zeus.
It's quite godly,
godly, or Apollo, or one of the Greek god names, or whatever. So, man, that was a good question. That was a good start to the philosophical questions.
I've got more of those too.
You got more of those.
Yes.
So, all right. Thank you guys for watching. We're really excited to bring back the Resilient Purpose podcast. Back to YouTube, back to Apple, back to Spotify. We're on all of those. So please get on there, like it, share it, show us some support. Let us know things that you want to hear us talk about. Certainly throw in some guest suggestions. Maybe we can get Tom Brady. So if any of you guys know Tom Brady.
Or Roger
Federer. He's got time on his hand. He just retired.
He did just retire. Maybe he's doing a little media tour.
Right.
Pick him up.
That would be wonderful. So thank you guys. Have a great rest of your day and take care.
Thank you.